Hi, this is Marilyn Fontaine, and I haven't done a podcast for ages. It's been eons. So I'm going to start doing some podcasts, probably about 20 to 40 minutes in duration, and I'm going to pick a topic every week that I'm going to do because I feel like I'm called to do it for some reason. I find that I'm more auditory anyway at the moment. So that means I really like speaking, listening songs. I do like to look at videos, but I find that podcasts really help me when I'm painting or I'm writing something or I'm doing housework. So I just find that the spoken word is it's really key and important at the moment for me. So I feel compelled to share more podcasts with you. So today, just going to be a bit of a kind of non-directional podcast. So I'm going to just talk about, but maybe three topics. I'll do three topics, and talk about that, and then afterwards, what I want you to do, those of you that are listening, is to email me at info@mjfontaine.co.uk. MJ, link will be in the bio. So MJFONTAINE Fontaine e.co.uk, and just let me know any topics that you would like me to cover in my forthcoming podcast. And remember, if you've looked at my bio, my website, I think I've talked about this before. I've trained in aromatherapy, um, holistic therapy. What's the other thing I've done? Life coaching, NLP, healing, personal development, very art. I'm just trying to Indian head massage, um, introduction to herbalism, anthropology. So various different things that I've covered. It's a broad spectrum, but the real connection is that it relates to the self. The human being, the human spirit. What is our journey? Why we go to the places we go to, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And that's really important to me. So I want this to be a type of the conversations that are born from the conversations I have with my clients, the conversations I have with my students, the conversations I have with friends, and the things that I see. I don't watch telly. I might watch now and again, but I'm not very much a television watcher. So my world is kind of specially curated by me, or by the conversations that I have, the things I see on my day to day walking around. Some things on social media, obviously, is a heavy influence for me. But what I find is that the real world is really important as well, because we can get sidetracked by what we perceive the the posts on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, or the lifestyles that we see has a reality, and a lot of the times they're not 100% reality. We all have to play a role. So, so I digress as I normally do. So, first thing I want to touch on is we're going into spring. Um, Many of my listeners and clients know that I recently lost my father last year, and it's been an interesting journey navigating the grief. I not only lost my father, I lost a brother-in-law and an ex-boyfriend. I'll use the word ex-boyfriend loosely. Um, all to various illnesses, which again is another topic in the future about especially black men and health. Um, but one thing I realise that grief does, it makes you stand still. And I am a fan of meditation and yoga, but I'm also what you would class as an A-type personality. So always rushing about. I just do 100 different things at once. I'm always doing loads of different things. Um, so for me, my whole being is on a go slow. So I get tired really quickly. Um, and when I do feel that tiredness, I stop, which in one aspect has been such a blessing because I'm able to pause between the different things I do. And a lot of the things I do can be quite intense, and the pause just allows me to have that gap. So the natural tiredness I get off the back of this grief is actually been really helpful for me. And I've always been a person to live for today because you don't know what tomorrow might bring. Um, but again, things have changed where I thought that I'd be, I've got to ramp it up extra because I don't have much time left because, 1 minute we're here, next minute we're gone, which is still, a tiny part I have. But what this has enabled me to do is just be still, to allow my body to do what it needs to do, to rest, to just be, which is totally alien for me. It was so bad. Um, it was so bad that my anxiety, which I haven't suffered from for years, which just came back with all the bereavements, was running havoc. So obviously I was painting, I was doing a lot of things, but all of a sudden my body was like, no, we just need to just rest, rest, rest. So I always see grief as a kind of talisman, a kind of protection, because you don't give a toss what anything or anybody else says. You're just in your space. Um, One part, it can open your heart so much because your heart is broken. It opens you up. It enables you to be in a moment. It enables you to be still, to really absorb and digest certain experiences. But on another hand, you just got this sod it, I don't care attitude because you're just in this place, which is like the weather, especially the English weather, all over the place. So it's a point of just really a lot of self-love and loving yourself and being still. So, I will not hide my grief. I will not hide how I feel, but I think being in the moment allows me to be in a place of balance. And I always say that this is my mantra at the moment. If I can give myself space to love myself, then I can love you better. Then I can spend time with you when I've served these feelings within myself that stem from this great loss. Otherwise, if I sacrifice myself, I will start to meet my shadow, and the worst part of my shadow I will start to meet, and I will either turn that in on me or I will turn it on somebody else or something. So I really serve myself, and what I'm realizing is the relationships I'm having off the back of this are really authentic and they're really real. They're really accepting, more so than what I had before, where I would feel I would feel that, I have to do this out of duty and go into the victim or the persecutor, on the drama triangle situation. So I'm really in my space with that. And I just find that being in that space, there's so many things that I feel I need to do on some level, but another part of me is like, those things will get done in divine time. And there is a coexistence happening with me because the universe is bringing me exactly what I need, and I'm having to learn to trust. So, alongside, I feel like something is there. It could be my father, brother-in-law, ex, and all the blessings, or it could be the fact that I'm standing still again to really know that I'm going to be okay through this. I'm going to be supported regardless. And if you're like me, you're a freelancer. Sometimes you have work. Sometimes work you could have a quiet spell. It's just not happened. I've just been working, and things are coming to me. Clients are coming, and it just being in a moment it's really important, but it shouldn't have to be a bereavement for us to really be still. So, what another highlight, which moves on to the second topic, what having some time and space to myself has done for me, because I'm always giving myself breaks as well from the freelance work I do. It's enabled me to reconnect with aromatherapy, plants and and herbs, and I have a moon circle, and I've been working with macerations and making tinctures with herbs, especially herbs that support the grief process, the emotional process. So I've actually introduced that into the moon circle. So the ladies in this moon circle are doing that. But also it's bringing back my love of how things used to be. Whenever the sun is shining, I'm in my kitchen and I'm making up some herbs. I'm cooking some really beautiful food. I eat fish. I have a kind of what you'd call a pescatarian diet. But sometimes I'll go for a stage of just having vegan food, and then I'll go back to having some fish or vegetarian food. So that's my cycle of eating. But making things from scratch, really consciously cooking, really making some really nice ingredients, making tinctures, making jams, having natural honey, all those kinds of, cooking food from the scratch, food prepping, which I find is really helpful, like planning the food, making my smoothies. These are all things that are nourishing. All the nourishing activities I find are really important. And so, working with the oils, there's such a brilliant support. And I actually love making up the oils. I forgot how much I love making blends and making macerations and putting herbs in jars and allowing them to be to be cooked by the sunlight or in a dark cupboard for 6 weeks and seeing afterwards what's happening. So it's that back to nature cycle. It's working with the herbs and oils, knowing that they're going to nourish me. So I think this is really important about being still and also self-nourishment. And yes, we have a lot of vegans, vegetarians, raw foodies on Instagram posting some really ridiculously delicious food, really helping. But we want to be consciously eating without judgment, because some people do eat meat and they need to, that's how they get their nourishment. That's where they are at the moment. So I feel that we don't need to have such a judgmental attitude towards people that do eat meat. I think it's about learning, leading by example, or just ensuring that people are being healthy and they're looking after themselves in the best way that they can, because we all started somewhere. So I think that's really important, to enable other people to be their self, and then they can meet you in your world if they see fit. So aromatherapy, I just find that to be so lovely. The study of plants and oils, what they do, how they impact on the spirit, how they impact on the mind, how you can just help your mood by just making up an oil in sunflower oil, using chamomile or rose, and just putting that on your skin or put it on your face, and it just helping you feel just a tiny bit better than you did before. I was feeling so kind of low, and then I walked into Neil's Yard Remedies and said, I've had a bereavement, this is how I feel. Normally I'd go to my homeopath or have a massage, but I just wasn't in that space. And then this woman said to me, lemon balm tea, Melissa tea. And I have Melissa oil. It's one of the best essential oils that you can use. For some reason, didn't realise that was a Melissa lemon balm tea is a brilliant heart soother. And just this woman doing this for me, it just changed the energy of my heart space. So it lightened up. my heart space, so I can, grieve in a lighter place rather than this just dark, heavy, musky kind of feeling, just a winter kind of feeling. What Melissa T did for me was lighten me to, for me to adjust to the weather and just breathe. It just, for some reason, it allowed space in my heart and my lungs to breathe, to just take in life again. So that's herbs. The thing about herbs is just brilliant. So that really helped. And I just fell by it. So last week I made up part of my moon circle, rose, three things: rose tincture, with rose petals, rose crystal. So no, rhododendronite. I'm pronouncing it totally wrong, but it's like I'll put it in the description. Rhododendronite, but it's a rosy colour herb, and so I put that in the sun. So I've made, and it's really good for the heart as well. So I've made those tinctures. But the rose tincture is still cooking, still absorbing everything it needs to in a dark cupboard. But the crystal, I made a crystal essence. I was able to use that during the snow because I put it out in the sunlight, and make that, and I'm using that now as a tincture. So that's really good. So I've talked about oils, I've talked about being in the moment, and talked about food. And so the last thing I want to cover is all these things make up a really good self-care system. So self-care, again, is a really big buzzword at the moment, and wellness, but it should be part of life. So you have your percentage of you going out, percentage of you being in a relationship, your percentage of your wellness and self-care. It's got to be in that, as well as your finances and everything else. It shouldn't be just what we would say, I'm going to do some self-care now. It should be an everyday thing. And that could be, again, I'm drinking more water now as well, or having a tincture, or making, saving space just to make your own body oil. And the fact that you're crafting something that's going to go into your skin is a brilliant ritual. Or making some bath salts that you're going to use in the bath. Because the other stuff are really lovely, like going to the sauna, getting a facial, getting a massage. But the things that we can actually do for ourselves, that are very simple, that do not really require a lot of money, are one of the most important things that we can do. And I think that it's that concentrated effort. Energy flows where your attention goes. So if you're making up something that's going to go onto your skin or into your body, it's about being really intentional with that practice. That's the best form of magic. So, nearly 20 minutes. So that's the first podcast of 2018, where you can find me, www.mjfontaine.co.uk, Instagram Mjfontaine or Mjfontaine Art, same as Facebook. If you have any queries, or you want to me to cover any topic, just drop me a line at info@mjfontaine.co.uk. Don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter and this podcast on SoundCloud, because the more people subscribe and have interest, the more I will be posting. I have so much stuff to get out, and I'd rather do a podcast where it's interactive. And if you want to be on this show and you want to speak about certain things, again, drop me a line at the same place. You can also send me a message on my Mjfontaine Facebook page, the business page, or the Instagram as well. But I'm more on Instagram than I am on Facebook, but I still answer that email. So this is Marilyn Fontaine. Until next time, I'm signing off. Bye-bye.